glad to have everybody here, and we're here for an important reason. Just for any of you who don't know me, my name's Matt Gilmore. I'm a man of few words, of course, unless you're paying me by the hour. So I'm not going to take much of your time because you guys didn't come to hear me talk. But we are here for an important reason. We're here because the next governor of Maryland's here. He's going to come and talk to us today and tell us his vision for the state of Maryland. I had an opportunity to meet Doug Gansler 10 years ago or so, and he's been a good friend. He has reinvented the Attorney General's office, and I have no doubt that if we give him the opportunity, he's going to do the exact same thing in the governor's mansion. So, without further ado, let me introduce the Attorney General of Maryland and the next governor of the great state of Maryland, Doug Gansler.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here this morning. Beautiful mountain, Maryland. I got the sun beaming on me. I came over the mountains this morning and realized I was in God's country. The air got clean. It was beautiful watching the fog. And I'm out here because, as many of you know, I'm always out here. I've been out. I come to Mountain, Maryland at least once a month, either Garrett, Allegheny, Washington County. We're obviously up in Frederick a lot, but that's not necessarily all Western Maryland. So I thought it was important to come here and start this beautiful day to announce that I'm running for governor of Maryland, and I want to do it out here in Western Maryland because there's so many of our elected officials from the state that don't realize that this is part of Maryland. It's a wonderful part of Maryland. It's got incredible potential, and it has an incredible past. And so many of you were just talking to a couple of you about how I come out every year to the Jefferson-Jackson dinner in Allegheny County, and obviously I'm there in Washington County. And actually, before I forget, I want to recognize and thank those of you from Labor who are here, because I come out to the Labor dinner every year in Hagerstown as well, and you are the backbone of the party. And in some ways, from the policies of these last 7-8 years, Labor is the group that suffered some of the most of the economic policies that we have in Maryland. I was just asked earlier, what do I think about the fact that Maryland has the highest per capita income, and some people say we have the #1 schools in this country here in Maryland, yet that seems to have not necessarily graced Western Maryland. In other words, the median income in Maryland right now is $70,000 plus, and some of the schools in Maryland are very good. Yet the reality is, in Western Maryland, we've lost so many jobs. Over the last 7 or 8 years, there's been 40 consecutive tax increases. There's been a lot of regulation. A lot of our businesses have left. A lot of our people have left because we're not promoting growth. We're not expanding growth. Western Maryland out here, we used to have Kelly Tires. And who was wearing the Kelly Tire jacket? And James Ortiz over here is wearing his old school Kelly Tires jacket. That's one of the 4 or 5 or 6 big manufacturing concerns that have left. And we need to bring those back. We need to go to the Under Armours, the McCormick Spices, and say, you tell us what you want to put your plant back out in Western Maryland. We have the footprint. I'm an environmentalist. It's one of my top issues. I get that. But we have the footprint to bring manufacturing concerns back to Maryland. We just need to want to do it. We need to have the incentives created to do it. We need to ask companies to make their products here in Maryland. Then we need to hire people from Maryland and then buy those products in Maryland. And that'll help bring back Western Maryland. There's no more beautiful town in the country than Cumberland, Maryland. Yet we're letting it die on the vine by not promoting business and not giving back into the economy out here. So I'm out here to talk about running for governor and my vision for the best Maryland, a better Maryland, Maryland pride, the pride I have in our state. I grew up in Maryland. My family's grown up in Maryland. I've run county, state, and national government organizations for the last 16 years, and that's what I want to continue to do. I want to bring a change to the way we look at things in Maryland as well as in Annapolis. Speaking to Labor for 1 minute, you know, the past administration and my opponent, they talked about having project labor agreements way back 7 years ago, and they finally have a project labor suggestion at the time when there's an election coming up. But we really need to support labor. If we had just 2% of all our projects were state projects were project labor agreements, we would have no unemployment for organized labor. So we need to actually care about labor. We need to care about business. They do go hand in hand, as well as our economy and as well as Western Maryland. So with that, what I'd like to do is ask you to consider supporting me as we go forward. I'd like you to take a look and see who is the most genuine candidate, who is the most authentic candidate, who is the most passionate. Please look at our records. I'm actually running on my own record, not somebody else's record, and our vision for the state of Maryland in the future. With that, I'd like to, I know this is sort of breaks tradition and these kind of things, but I wouldn't mind taking a question or two if you have one. And I'll obviously hang out all day. I'm going to take a look at the station here afterward. But if anybody has a question or two, and or if you want to have, if you have any personal concerns, we can talk about that afterward. But if you have a question or two, I'd love to take them. Yeah.
My name's Ethan West. I'm president of the Prosper State College Democrats. One of our big concerns is the FTE status of students transferring in Frostburg and other state universities. FTE is full-time enrollment, and it's only applicable to students that have attended Frostburg State for the entire year, or for their entire bachelor's program. And the problem is we're one of the biggest percentages of transfer students in the country.
Into Frostburg, yeah.
Right. We get kids from Garrett College, Allegheny College, all that, even AACC and all that. So those students actually only count as half the student towards that FTE funding, and it's really hurting Frostburg's budget. It's taken a big toll. One thing I would ask of the new governor or lieutenant governor or new representatives is to introduce something to either up that half the student criteria that actually goes towards the budget. It's based on enrollment.
Right.
And one thing I would ask the new governor is to maybe put forth legislation that ups that 0.5 and maybe 0.75 or 0.8. How would you stand on that?
No, about FTEs, this is an issue about Frostburg where people come into Frostburg, and Frostburg, because, I mean, it's interesting sort of geographically, because Western Maryland is so thin, you know, and there's states that are neighboring, that are close by, as well as our newer reliance over the last 10 or 20 years on community colleges. Many students actually transfer into Frostburg, and it's one of, I think you said it's the most, that's certainly one of the most, yeah, one of, if not the most, transferred into schools, yet the students aren't counted for funding purposes as a full student once they get there. And I think that is a legitimate concern and one that we need to focus on, because Frostburg, you know, you hear different colleges, different governors can have an affinity toward a particular college. But Frostburg actually serves this whole region, along with McDaniel, actually. Those are two of the schools that we need to make sure we actually give attention to. So yeah, I think a student is a student is a student. So when they're there, once they transferred in, they should be considered to be a full-time student, as long as they're taking a full-time course load. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, George Pence, President of Western Maryland Central Nation Council, we've talked before.
Yes, we have.
As governor, you would sit on the Board of Public Works, correct?
Yes, sir.
And represent along the trade around here. I know that project labor agreements have been zero. That's something you would approve.
Yeah, the question is about project labor agreements, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, because they said, we're going to have project labor agreements, you know, don't worry about it, and then it took them 7 years to get to try and get one, and it was legally infirm, and it had to go through the courts. And then there was some things that went on where they, in terms of the endorsement, now somebody's trying to run for governor and somebody else is supporting them. And what they did was they tried for the first time ever to change the way in which you can actually be considered for the endorsement by moving up the filing deadline. They said you had to be filed as a candidate with your lieutenant governor, you know, over a year and some odd before the election to be considered, because of course one candidate had filed and had the lieutenant governor because they decided to have a year and a half long race. I actually have a job, so I need to do my job, so I didn't want to be running for a year and a half. And so what they did was they said, well, we'll do this, you will get this artificial date, and then of course we'll have an executive order. But the executive order wasn't an executive order for project labor agreements, it was more akin to an executive suggestion. We urge you to consider, as opposed to real PLAs, because what we need to have are real PLAs, and as I told the group the other day, that's what I'm for. And I don't understand how you say you're going to do something and not do it. I've run now 4 different times. Every time I've run, well, for the first time when I ran for state's attorney, and then when I ran for attorney general, the entire establishment was against me. Most elected officials were against us. They tried to handpick who you were supposed to vote for. This is who we're going to coordinate. You don't actually, we're going to try and take the vote away from you. And fortunately, we won those elections, and we won them big, and we intend to win this one big, despite what's going on. We have they run their campaigns differently than I do, and so we run ours sort of above board, and they have different tactics. But we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to having project labor agreements, because that look, unions made this country great, and unions made Western Maryland great. And it's right now it's people are struggling. So all this wonderful stuff that they talk about how great Maryland is, and it's great. I grew up here. I'm the only candidate in our party that actually grew up in Maryland, so I understand what Maryland was, what Maryland is, and what Maryland can be. But we need to make sure we focus on the people that need a voice in government, and that's what I intend to do, and I intend to represent labor in that way. Look, I'm going to hang around. Thank you all again for being here. I appreciate you. I know you all have places to go. I know you have jobs. It's a beautiful day, a beautiful turnout here in Cumberland. I look forward to being back, and if you want to help us out, let us know, and we'll go forward. We have 9 months from this past Tuesday until the primary, so I hope I can get your support. Thanks again for being here.